Hi, Abhay. Gokul told me that you'll be joining. Welcome. Hi, Soumya. So we're following along with the final match of Gokul versus Pranjal. Both of them have 2 wins going into this, and whoever wins this will basically be the Indian representative for the KPMC. Pranjal is white, as you can see. He's intently focusing on the game. He's allowed us to. He's basically said that he'll keep this video on so that we can look at him and everything. Obviously, we're also following along. This is also a requirement from cheating point of view and things like that. Although I don't expect any of them to cheat. Uh, this is Gokul, who we can see out here. He's intently thinking right now. It is his move, as you can see. And he's trying to figure out what to do in this situation. And let's go back to the game. So this is an interesting a set of moves that we're seeing. What we'll likely end up seeing is that black will keep a part of this corner, but there will be some influence that white has on both sides. So I'm expecting the next move of white to be something like this, maybe kind of solidify this, because black needs maybe one more move in the corner, and this would be quite balanced for both because black can always come out as well. So let's see what happens with the game. So we can see that this is the first move that white has made. And this is the second move that black has made. Maybe we can see an extension out here on white. If white's getting particularly aggressive, white might play something out here instead of this. Or if white really wants to defend, then white might even maybe solidify a little bit out here because these are not fully connected yet. So maybe just some additional strength out here. But most, I mean, I'm honestly expecting a move somewhere here. Okay, so white has actually gone for pushing the other corner. This does give an extension from its wall of stones while also attacking the corner. So in Go, this is generally what's called a dual purpose move. And dual purpose moves in general are preferred over moves that have one purpose. And here black is basically saying with the sequence of moves that black really wants the corner. White will need one extra move out here. This is not territory yet. There is one move that needs to be played somewhere out here most likely to actually solidify this. But white may or may not play it, but playing out here right now might be a little slow. This is a very loose enclosure on the corner. As you can see, white has played this. So white has solidified this, but white has given black center. So we might see black jump out, or black might do something completely different, like going into this corner. What I was saying was that this is quite a loose enclosure on the corner. There are multiple points where white can reduce it. It'll be good to see what happens to this corner near the end of the game. It is Gokul's chance, and we can kind of follow along with his thought process out here. He's evaluating this move, and a couple of approaches in the corners as well. So it's useful for us to kind of see the screens as well because we can kind of follow along from the point of view of what the players are thinking. This would be an interesting move that we can see on the board R9 right now because it would apply a lot of pressure on this group of stones. And like we mentioned earlier, R4 and S4 are still weak. So there is a lot of potential for an attack out here. Attack is not very fruitful because there's no real chance that white will die. And if we actually look at the sequence of moves that would follow, Okay, so we can see that black has played this move out here instead. But largely speaking, if this attachment would have happened, or this attack would have happened, the sequence to follow would have actually jumped out at here, which encloses the black group, which is not necessarily what we want in this situation. Hi Pranay. Pranay, you don't have your game right now. Pranay is also one of the participants in this tournament. He's currently going to be fighting with Karan for third place. So in the game, what has happened is that black has played here, which is a standard enclosure of this corner. White has taken an equivalent enclosure out here. Any move out here is quite big right now because it's preventing the extension for both of the players. These are loose enclosures because they're coming from the 4-4 point. Less loose enclosure would be something like here. This is a much more solid enclosure. But in the game, we have, as you can see, it's a looser enclosure. But in any case, an extension from an enclosure is big. So it'll be interesting to see whether we get an extension from any of the players. Okay, so right now we're seeing an extension for black on this side, which makes sense because black did play R14 to kind of strengthen. So it kind of makes sense for black to follow up with the strengthening by attacking the white group. By the way, you guys can hear me, right? There's no one saying anything. So
Yeah, yeah, we can hear you.
okay, great. So it's white's turn. So let's try to catch a glimpse of what white is going through right now. White has played Q9, which is an interesting move. It's kind of trying to keep black low as well. It is a little scary because there is always a cut that black can actually force out here. But it's probably not the right time for black to make this cut. So I'm expecting black to back off right now and then white to strengthen. Black might play a little more aggressively, something like this, which would be good for black because black's making a good amount of territory, which black would be quite happy with. And actually, in the game, we can see that that is what black has done. White has defended out here, black has defended out here. So now, as we're looking at it, this is becoming a little more solid for black. And kind of probably to prevent that from becoming too big, white has played an extension out here. This prevents black from making a much bigger move here. Black would get like maybe a couple of more moves out here. This would be slightly hard to reduce. So in the game, that's why we're seeing something like this. It's a very even game, as we can see. The reason AI is giving like 3 more points to black is because black's territory is a little more solid than white in most places, and this is still a weak group. But honestly, it's very even because it's very early in the game. So black is thinking of invading the corner in some way or the other. There aren't many other big moves on the board. Maybe black can extend somewhere around C12, or maybe black can invade, like you can see black's mouse evaluating right now. So it looks like black is leaning towards some sort of invasion. There are multiple ways that the invasion can go. Generally, what black would really want is maybe a part of the corner out here. But most likely, white will keep the corner and black will be able to attack this one stone. So again, I'm not fully familiar with how the invasions go. It's not really my strong suit, but it should be interesting to see what the reduction happens out here. Okay, so black has gone for a reduction instead. Black is playing d13. So with d13, black is basically giving white the option. White can either continue low and black takes the influence towards the center. Alternatively, white can make a slightly bigger corner where black also gets a size, a part of the side, and still gets influence in the center. So any sort of high move out here generally speaks towards an influential move in any case. This is an interesting move. I'm not too sure I would do something like this in this situation because it doesn't seem to apply too much pressure on white. Even if white fully ignores it in 10 of these, there isn't that much damage that black can do. Black can at best uh, try to keep white low, which isn't really the worst thing for white. So what we see out here is that white has played this. So most likely black's gonna play out here. If black's getting very interested in the corner or invading, then maybe you can see an attachment somewhere here. But I'm expecting black to kind of back off in some way or the other. So black has gone for the other sequence we're looking at, which is black's trying to do some sort of invasion. It's very likely, especially after the C13 stone, white needs to defend on the left hand side. So I'm expecting a move like this, which is kind of gonna try to keep the corner and weaken this white stone out here. That's the trade-off that white would want to go for in this. If white really wants to make sure a part of the side is here, then white can play something like this. But that's basically giving black the corner. So it's unlikely that white would play something like this. Let's follow along with what Pranjal is thinking. Pranjal unfortunately does not read with his mouse like Gokul does. So we're not getting as much insight into what his mind is thinking at the moment. But it's still very likely that he'll play somewhere near D18. So here we see White's move. White has defended the corner like we were suspecting. Also, we have Gokul's camera on as well now, so we'll be able to follow Gokul as he thinks through it. And yes, black will have to make some sort of a base out here because with E18, black was saying that I want to emphasize the side, which kind of makes sense after the C13 stone. So now, most likely, black might push once, like Goku's evaluating right now, at which point white will block and then make a base. But we're going to see a move somewhere around G17 or H17 sometime. So yeah. So as we were discussing, black has played here, white has played here, and now black will likely play somewhere here or here. And we can see that black has made a base. Now it's not a very strong base. Maybe white can play something depending on what white wants to do. Most likely, I'm expecting white to maybe strengthen this side because this is the one weak group that white has. But that's giving black a chance to, make strength as well. This might not be the ideal result for white. So what white might do instead is play something that expands white and maybe attacks this group, something like this or something like this. But I'm not too sure what white's best move would be in this situation because black does have the strength of this one stone out here. So it's very unlikely that this black group will die. So white will have to attack it and profit off the attack, which is going to be difficult because of these two stones. So white can't really make a base. So what I'm thinking is something like this, maybe. Maybe something like this to threaten into the corner and black have to defend. But yeah, I'm expecting this black group to kind of come out. So the way that white is thinking about this is that white will kind of make territory in this area and in this area, while black's objective would be to kind of keep white low and make sure that black is able to build enough strength in the middle of these two groups. So both black and white have a very similar objectives. This group is weak and this group is also weak. So it's just about, attacking the other's weak group and becoming stronger in the process. Like I said, I don't expect any of them to die. But in this particular situation, I think black is in a marginally better situation because there are a lot more, black stones surrounding as compared to the white stones out here. So yeah, so we see white strengthening out here. And I'm expecting an equivalent follow-up response from black. Yeah, it's important for black to defend in some way. I don't think we'll see a move anywhere except for this area of the board. So to tell you a little bit more about what they're playing for, this is the 16th Korea Prime Minister Cup Indian Representative Selection Tournament. So the Korean Prime Minister Cup is an annual tournament that's conducted by the Korean Baduk Federation, and it has like a significant prize money for amateurs and things like that. I think the prize money is maybe around $3,000 US for the first place. And it's going to be held in August. It's obviously being held online, just like everything else that's happening. It's going to be held on the W Bardock platform. So yeah, so from Black, we can see that Black has jumped out, like we were evaluating. And White is contemplating another jump out. So Pranay has dropped off because his third place match with Karan will be starting soon as well. So we'll try to spend a little bit of time on that game as and when it starts. But most of our focus will probably be on this game out here. Yeah, and as you can probably follow along, we are seeing White increase its Moya as well. So now it's still important for Black to defend in some way or the other, and with the Knight's move, White has started applying a little bit of pressure on Black. Maybe something like this or something like this might be useful. This is a little passive. Maybe Black will go for this, but then that does threat a potential, invasion points out here as well. Okay, so we can see that Black has jumped out. It is uh, a move like this that's been played. So that still leaves these cutting points open. Plus, because an attachment, Black is giving White a free chance to increase its strength while still having shape issues that Black needs to fix. I don't know whether White will take this chance immediately because this is a good opportunity to kind of at least make a couple of forcing moves. Maybe something like this, but let's see what happens. Right now, the ladder does work for White. Maybe. Yes, the ladder does work for White, as you can see. So this cut is not necessarily something that White needs to worry about. But that's why what you can see is White did not really end up extending to defend. White has played Hane, and Black has strengthened. So this has actually weakened this potential cutting point. This cutting point is probably still annoying, to say the least. Maybe something like this could be done. But I think what this is potential invasion moves. What I would expect White to do is play on the outside. So White has made a move. Let's look at what White has done. Yes, White has played on the outside to kind of strengthen its shape. And it's perfectly fine for White if Black continues to run because White's expectation is that White will continue to make territory along the side as well. And with this strength, White is projecting a good deal of influence towards this direction as well, which is towards White's strong stones. So I think White's quite happy with this kind of sequence of moves out here. It might also be the right time for, okay, Black has played here, which is kind of goes with what we're discussing, what we're trying to come out. At some point of time in the future, it might make sense for Black to start the counter attack out here, because White still is just a wall and does not have ice, even though it's strong enough that it doesn't really need to worry. But if Black does peep at a cutting point, White will have to defend, giving Black some potential, scope for territory on the top right as well. And this can be quite big. I mean, there are some potential invasion points similar to what we saw out here, but nothing that's very clear cut. And after this sequence of moves, any potential invasion out here is going to have a hard time living. So White is evaluating making a base because of what we just discussed. And yeah, this might be the right timing for a base because Black would be worried about White going into the corner. And White has created enough strength that and Black has enough strength that Black's come out of whatever was happening on the left hand side. This is also not a bad move. This the move at P10 because it is increasing White's Moya. Obviously, we do have the weakness because of the stones at P4. So this might not necessarily be the best way for White to use its influence, but White has made this move. So what I'm expecting is maybe something like this, or maybe just continue the attack out here. This is unlikely because Black's not strong enough to do this yet, but this would have the dual purpose of building Black's bottom left as well, even if, something like this happens. Even if a cut happens, Black doesn't need to worry because Black can jump out. So maybe we'll see something like that. Alternatively, maybe we'll see what we were discussing earlier, something like this. Or I think in this situation, Black might actually respond one, giving White the chance to double highlight. This would be an ideal result for White. White would be very happy with the projection of this influence in that case. But even with that, we have to remember that this is not really territory. There is a lot of damage that Black can do out here. Black is evaluating the left-hand side that we were discussing. It does have the advantage of being a dual-purpose move, but it does let white get a potential extension at O11. So those are the two moves that black seems to be considering right now. So just to go through the moves that black was considering, we're looking at something like this, which does increase the territory, or something like this, which, like the sequence we saw, is great for white. But if black does not play here, then this is also a very good situation. White black does need to respond, and now white gets this extension in for free. In the meantime, let's just take a quick break and head over to the third place match that's happening between Karan and Pranay. So far, the game barely just started, but let's just quickly run through the moves out here as well. Standard and okay, here black is playing for. But this is slightly non-standard. What you would normally see is something like this, or maybe something like this. So it's interesting what black has gone for out here. Black is basically. I'm not too happy with this move. This leaves too much weakness, honestly. And white is seeing that white can exploit that weakness. So the rest of the sequence move seems fine. Honestly, this might actually be just not fully sure. But white has left it here. At this point, the white push does not work. It's still annoying, but it's not something that black needs to worry about necessarily. After that, white has moved on to this, and black is playing a high pincer, and white is jumping out. Black is trying to connect underneath. We don't have a move yet in the other game, so let's try to evaluate this sequence a little bit. What I would expect out here is something like this, where white basically says, you know what, I'm taking the side and influence towards the center. But this stone out here is in an annoying place for that, because black's also staking the center, you can say, in some way. So this is a good set of moves from black. Black has, to a very large extent, solidified the corner, unless black wants to very aggressively play for it. But then white's basically leaving black the entire outside. So it's unlikely that we'll see something like this. We do have a game move. We can see the game move is this side. This is slightly better because it gives black. I mean, it depends. It gives black the option. Black can cut out here, at which point we can see something very similar to what we saw, but white's a little stronger in the corner right now. Alternatively, we might just see a back off from black and white to connect. This is the simplest way to stabilize this position. Let's go back to the the other game, the finals, and here we're seeing that white has played here. Actually, I think we missed a couple of moves. So black played here instead of what we were evaluating earlier. So black played at this point, which is kind of making sense because black is trying to reduce the amount of influence that white would be getting in the center. And in response, white is playing along with the sequence of moves that white had threatened earlier. This is exactly what Peter was going for, and if white's getting it, why not play it? This is further strengthening these tones as well. And we see that black's response is here. Now, this is more solid because the weaknesses that we were discussing earlier of this move are not as many because this card doesn't work anymore. So this was a good a way for black to strengthen this play move that black wanted to make. But white did get this as a result of that, the P10 stone. Hmm. So I'm expecting black to, sorry, white's turn. I'm expecting white to maybe continue its attack out here because playing a move like this needs black to respond. Otherwise, these stones are going to die. So with this, white has a much stronger, territory, and then white can kind of push towards the corner. Maybe something like this. This is something that black, oh sorry, white would be quite happy with. I'm guessing, although that does leave some potential out here. But then white still should have enough territory. Let's look at what AI has to say in this situation. Okay, AI is still saying things are pretty even right now, and even without the sequence of moves, it's the same thing. White's maybe a little off, in fact. But yeah, so far things are going quite evenly out here. In this game, we did see the sequence of moves we were discussing, which is that black strengthened here and then white connected. We did not see a black extension out here. Instead, black went out here, which means that white could steal that extension away. So black will live in the corner, but now white is in a solid position because white has surrounded black fully. Maybe out here, white, what we can potentially see is something like this from white. This is back to the finals game if you guys aren't following along. Uh, Alternatively, this is quite big, so we might actually see the invasion out here. Let's actually try to dive into what Pranjal is thinking and see whether we can figure something out from there as well. So yeah, that's another option that white has. White is considering uh, going into this group. It's not as important now because black is out. But if for whatever reason white is able to disconnect that, then that will be very, very big for white. So I think it's well timed to try to cut these stones off. But I'm not sure it'll actually work. With these two Tenno keys on the right hand side, it does make sense for white to attack the three black stones out there, like Pranjal is considering right now. Because if you think about it, black did not respond to either of these two moves. So for white to actually get some, output out of it, it makes sense for white to try something out here. It might not work as a way to kill the black stones, but it will definitely work as a reduction and a way to strengthen these white stones. Yeah. So I'm expecting white to play this next. It's a simple enough forcing move that requires a response. But maybe white wants to go for something a little more aggressive. Or white can actually choose this opportunity to tell. This is not a bad exchange for white to kind of start strengthening this area. It's not really the right time to tell, okay, because that's giving black a very big corner. What I would expect is maybe a sequence something like this, or maybe even a attach out here. I'm not too sure what the best way to reduce this would be without giving black a corner. So maybe from that point of view, this move was not very well timed. Maybe this move would have been better. But it really depends on the style of play. Okay, so white has gone for the weakness that we knew about in the corner for black. There are a couple of Joseki out here. I think this is the standard one. Alternatively, you might see some sort of a variation out here where black says, you know what, I'm okay with you living in the corner, but I want it to be small. Maybe something like this. I'm not fully sure as to what will happen. I'm expecting this to be the sequence that's played. So there are two variations out here. White either black can do this. That leaves a little more RG due to this sequence of moves. Alternatively, black, sorry, black can do the sequence that we just discussed. In this sequence, white cannot really drop down out here because this threatens to cut at f2. So white will have to defend f2 and then these stones die. So basically white's losing much more of the corner, which is why it's important for white to, you know, capture when white can. And here white doesn't need to connect because it's not a very big move. It's not really a problem if black captures. It's just a couple of points. So for all practical purposes, black can consider this alive and solid. It's a possibility. Now it depends on how black wants to play at this point. The left side is more important than the bottom. So I'm honestly expecting something like this. But if black maybe is thinking about eventually going for invasion like this, black might want the strength that comes from something like this. Maybe I'm not fully sure how this sequence works, but I'm sure white can live if black plays anywhere slightly looser than c4. I think we have a couple of moves that have been played. Black has gone for, making sure that an attack on the right hand side still works, and white has taken the corner. So now most likely we'll see some sort of defense from black. Maybe this, maybe this, maybe this. Something to basically prevent white from getting much more of this. And white will have to respond by strengthening the corner. So there are interesting things that can work out. Maybe this would not be the best sequence. Maybe black will go for something slightly more solid. This is going to become annoying for white unless white plays from the outside. Or white might not have the luxury of playing this. So it really depends on what the outside moves on this area are. And we see this move from black. So if black does this, then black is able to kill these two white stones. So that's why it is a threat to surround. White can't really escape under the. So most likely we will see something simple like this. The fact that black needed to do something like f2 means that black is believing that black is behind, because this is an aggressive move. If black was ahead, black would definitely have gone for the sequence that we discussed earlier, because that's solidifying black's side and giving a few points to white. The fact that black has gone for this means that black is believing that black is or will be behind in the game at the moment. So we can see that white is trying to read what happens with a d3. D3 is an interesting move, but I have a feeling that it does not work. Let's actually try it out and see what happens. If white plays d3, then black can connect comfortably. I don't expect there to be a problem out here. Black cannot do this. Black will likely not do this. But I don't think d3 works the way white would want d3 to work. But it could be a series of forcing moves to kind of maybe set this. It doesn't work with this stone at least. So let's actually evaluate what happens if white plays this at this stage. I this might actually work. So maybe this is what white is going for with the d3 exchange. So to prevent that, black might. Black can't really do this. This is not great for black. So if white does play this, I'm probably expecting something like this. Maybe a threat first. In any case, white would at best live on the second line, and this threat still stays the same. But like white does get this in center as well. It's definitely worth considering. Okay, white has gone for a very interesting move out here. Yeah, I'm expecting black to play exactly what black did. At this point, white is probably going to see this exchange and then this push out in center. Yeah, this hands down. So I'm expecting white to do this. I'm not fully sure it works, honestly. So maybe before playing this, white will play this. But it's still not a great exchange for white. I'm not sure that's the best move for white to have played in this situation. Maybe this sequence was actually better for white. There is the threat of black eventually coming like this. I think that's still a lower threat than the sequence that white's looking at right now. Yeah. So it's exactly the sequence of moves that we were looking at. With this sequence, white is definitely alive and white is out, but black has considerably weakened this white group. Yeah, and we see the move that we were discussing earlier that has played this. Now, with this sequence, I think white is already alive. So maybe white can make this move out here because this still does not work. And if black does this, then this is not a dead shape. Could it be cool? Yeah, there is some interesting stuff out here. Maybe white will have to spin one more move. Yes, as you can see, white did spin one more move and black pushed ahead. Now this should be alive, so white can probably jump out somewhere else. Maybe white will want to defend out here. This doesn't seem like a very solid defense because there's a lot of naughtiness that black can do. I would actually expect white to give away these two stones and maybe just use them to strengthen another part of the board. Alternatively, we might actually see white come back here. We're seeing white evaluate c10 or some other moves like that instead. And white's reading out that white's definitely alive. Pranjal's reading is very good. So there's a chance of a black dying, sorry, a white dying. I'm sure white will take a good amount of time and evaluate that possibility. So if we see a move in the corner, it means that there was some killing sequence that white noticed. It's unlikely. My expectation is that white is alive. I don't see any way for black to kill white. So I think if white is evaluating moves on the left hand side of the board, that's probably not the biggest place for white to focus right now. I would actually expect J10 or something to be bigger. I think with this sequence of moves, black is finally starting to be a little ahead, as you can actually see from the point of view of the AI as well. But it's there's still a long way to go in this game. Okay, so white has pushed once more. So let's actually evaluate what happens if white 10 agrees. So this is a go. White does not necessarily need to play this way. White can play this way. This is still 6 stones, so maybe this is not alive yet. So maybe I think this is alive. See, this doesn't even work. So I would expect yeah, I think this is comfortably alive. I don't see any way for white to actually die. So maybe white's playing the extra move to actually get strength rather than just to stay alive. So white is planning some sort of an attack out here. Maybe if black doesn't respond, then white is expecting. No? I'm not fully sure. I think white's not really getting that much out here, and black is strong enough, so I don't think there's any danger out here. So I would actually say that this is probably not the best move by white in this situation. And as you can see, black has 10 okay by playing away. But black does not see any, actual major advantage that white can get by continuing an attack out here. And this is quite a big move for black. This is a move that white would have been very happy with getting. If white had played some barrier, then that would have been quite big. But in this sequence, black has gotten this move first. So, White's played a good forcing move out here. White's obviously going to make sure black defends. Because if black does not, then we're expecting this corner to be in danger now. So it's very, very likely that black will respond to this move. At which point white can continue playing wherever white wants. This is an important move to play first, mostly because of the weakness that's happened out here. With this weakness, white needs to make sure white has some points or some territory out here. So even if black jumps out, then white does have some strength to fall back on. So we can see that black has responded out here, at which point white has continued its threat that white played with b8. Let's see how far this goes because I'm not really expecting there to be that much out of it. So white has double hunted and cut out here, but I expect black to be able to comfortably, fix its ship. If white is going for killing this entire group, that's very ambitious. If white's going for some other attack, maybe white's using this to kind of, build leverage for a move like this. That might be interesting in play. I'm expecting black to play here. Yeah, I don't see anything to worry about from black's perspective. So, okay, black played the honey out here, which is interesting because that does leave the weakness that white has immediately exploited. So, and I'm expecting white. Okay, white. Interesting. What has white played? White has played here. That's threatening this double honey out here. So black will likely either ignore because this is not really doing much. So black can play something small like this. If black tenokis entirely, then this is not a good place for black to be. Black should not tenoki. So this is a good enough forcing move from white right now. I would expect black to play something like this, not just directly defending out here. This also has the advantage of defending this cut and keeping black connected, but it at the same time kind of threatens this white group as well. So maybe something like this, maybe something like this is what we would expect from black. But it'll be fun to see what's happening. Okay, black has gone directly for the attack. That is a move that I did not consider. White doesn't really need to care about being cut if white is, out. So that's a good set of moves instead from black. There is some annoyance that can come up out here. It'll be fun to see how that sequence actually plays out. I think white will have to respond out here, and this is really not strong enough for white to do too much with. So a good move by black. That's a more direct way of doing what we were considering with this. I think I should give up those two stones even now. Maybe use a couple of forcing moves on the outside to be able to give up those two stones. But we can see that white has a couple of different thoughts right now. There's nothing inherently wrong with continuing to defend the stones. There's just no easy or clean way to do it. The ladder does work for white though. Another option could be something like this. Now down black has defended against the weaknesses out here, and at the same time, black has really reduced white out here, and white does need to respond. If white does not, then black can actually threaten to kill off these stones, which will be much bigger than a couple of stones up here, especially since both black groups are going to be alive now. Or black could just, continue the reduction. This would be a slightly dangerous way of playing because, I mean, not too much of a trouble. I mean, at best, white black is losing like two stones. So this is also definitely playable. Multiple options for black. I think a couple of extra moves that white played out here were unnecessary, allowing black to take a couple of big points on the board. Okay, so we are seeing the rest of the sequence. White, black is played here. White has threatened this. It's threatened from the other side. I think this is a much smarter way of threatening. But yeah, here white is cut here because this does not really work. So white played outside so that white could get more strength. And black has responded here. Okay, so this is actually not that bad for white. White has built the strength that white wanted due to these forcing moves. Okay, I'm not fully sure about this move. I would actually prefer black in this situation, something like this. But I guess it works. But what's happened is that as a result of this, white has strengthened this, kept these two stones, and actually, utilized these walls a little bit better. That's not going to be a great, you know, it's not going to be great for black to notice this. White seems to be evaluating. Yeah, white can 10 okay. So white seems to be evaluating reduction on the corner and invasion. It is doable because black has two KMRs from a 4-4 stone. It looks like white's counting. Sorry, black's counting. Evaluating how much ahead or behind black is. In this situation, things are still close. I would still say black is ahead, but Yeah, I think this trade-off of the walls out here is a little bad for that. Okay, so we can see that white did invade. It's interesting that this is based on the 3-4 point, not the 4-4 point. I think White's trying to utilize the fact that there is this strength out here, which White can utilize to maybe attack the stone. So Black will likely have to maybe something like this, which will be a very good reduction for White. And neither side is really settled yet. This is a well placed cutting stone for White. Okay, that was a natural forcing move to strengthen White. but white still needs to play something out here. And the problem with this sequence of moves is that it is weakening this part. And that's a lot of territory for white. So maybe instead of an invasion, a reduction might actually have been better. Like I said, there isn't really a great approach for white to play out here without giving black a big number of points. Maybe I can go for something like this. Something can be done here potentially. White has gone for this cut instead. There is, like we saw, a similar sequence out here. Depending on how black plays. I don't expect black to play this move, honestly. I expect black to play something like this. Because there are a lot of cuts out here that are available to black. So black would want to strengthen. It's interesting to see what will happen next. But I would want to be black in this situation. Yeah, we can see black has strengthened instead of cross cut or harming. Maybe we'll see something like this. So this does allow white to live in the corner. The black basically neutralizes a lot of the potential territory that white had out here. Which wouldn't necessarily be too bad because white has taken out black's big corner. But and with these kind of things out here, there is enough potential for a reduction. So it's eminently playable, but it's probably slightly better for black. Yes. So white has started with this move. In the meantime, let's take a break to look at what's happening in the other game. Things seem very interesting, but I think White's ahead mainly because this black group is dead.
Yeah, I think white is probably 30 to 35 points ahead.
Maybe a little higher than that. So it's interesting. I think let's look at exactly how that black group ended up becoming. I think that's the most interesting part of this game. So we had looked at this sequence. This is probably not the best way for black to play. Even at this situation, black should uh, play something like this just for exactly the sequence that you can see in this particular situation. This should probably still be alive, but black really needs a move somewhere else. This is probably not the best move. Black should take move in the outside. In there. But in this sequence, what black's done is that black's allowed white to, you know, get some strength out here. Maybe, yeah, something like this. And I think this is a difficult place for black to be. So I think at this point, rather than doing this Hane, because this Hane out here has a Gote sequence, what black should do is probably defend. Okay, I think this is enough for black to be alive. Yeah. So that would have been a different game. So we do have a move out here. In this game, black has played this move out here, which is interesting because black's basically allowing white to cut through. But I expect black's not too worried about that. Black might be just thinking of doing a reduction like this, which I think black would be happy about. Because nothing's really done, just black's losing a part of this territory, not much of it is black's in the first place. And black is getting a good reduction in, you know, white. This is one sequence of potential moves. Let's see what the white actually does. Maybe white will actually try to do something like this, just to make sure that this wall is still strong. Okay, so white is strengthening the corner. And that makes sense. I think we'll see the sequence that you were discussing earlier. Maybe black would take this instead because it's better shape. But honestly, this is doable. This is most likely going to be the response, but white still has to play, not this sequence. Interesting, interesting. So let's just go through the sequence of moves real quick. White did this, black did this. So this is just an easy way for black to make sure the black is connected because nothing too much to worry about anymore. But white basically taking this opportunity to kind of try to push out. I'm expecting black to push out as well, but I'm not fully sure what white is going for out here. If white does end up killing the black group, then that's great. But I have a feeling the black group is strong enough that that doesn't need to be a problem. Otherwise, this white wall is building towards the wrong side. It's building towards black strength. Okay, okay. So yeah, white basically just trying to rebuild the wall in some way. Maybe this move could have been considered. I think might have led to the same sequence. Maybe this move. No, I'm sure there are other playable options, but the game sequence is this. That's fine. Maybe. Yeah. So white is trying to get some points in this area of the board and hopefully build a wall strong enough that white still has enough influence out here. Black is ahead, but it's ahead by roughly the same points. So this set of exchanges has not hurt black or white right now. What will be interesting is if if black has to make a move somewhere around here to live, because that would give white center, which could be quite useful for maybe doing a move like this. So black has played this. Yeah, so black is comfortably connected now, so black doesn't need to worry. But that does give white center, so white might see this as an opportunity to make a big move. This is a simple enough forcing move. Black has to connect. That does connect. The only thing is white does need to connect back because let's assume white is somewhere else, uh, something like this. Black does threaten to kind of push out like this, or even something more immediate like this. So this is not a great exchange for white. It does threaten to put white in court. But white just the other possibility is white could have just played as a time surgery, a move that black needs to respond to, so white gets more time to think. If that was the case, so it didn't really work because black responded quite quickly. Time surgeries are more important in the Byoyomi period. I'm not expecting this to be a time surgery. I'm expecting this to kind of build Aji. As we can see, that might be because white's trying to attack this quick. A couple of forcing moves to that also help to fix white's shape. Hmm. Maybe something like this works to kind of prevent black from going further. So yeah, that is the first move that we explained. The second move, yeah, and most likely white. I would expect white to defend like this, not like this, not like this. This just is slightly better shape in this situation, and that's what white has done. But this sequence did take white and gote again. So now black can probably take the big point or even just introduce. There's also the possibility that black will do something like this. That's also a very interesting move because it threatens to kill the two white stones eventually. But I think black is more worried about the white Moya out there. Because white has rebuilt the walls, albeit a little smaller than they were earlier. If white keeps that territory, that's not going to be great for black. In my opinion, the best move would be something around J10. Something like this, or something like this. But these are the two weak points in white's Moya. Of course, this would allow white to do something like this and build this territory, at which point black can always come back and play something like this instead. So if black really wants to be aggressive, black can probably even go for maybe something like this, because this does threaten to connect in both directions. I mean, there are possibilities in a game, in a game like this. But that depends honestly on how far behind black feels black is. If black is feeling confident about how far ahead it is, black would probably play something more solid and less risky. Okay, and as you can see, black has made a move in roughly the place that we were evaluating. So this move also tells us that black is feeling confident about how far ahead it is in the game. And white is fixing its shape, which is important because otherwise, like we noticed earlier, this sequence of moves would be quite bad for white. So white would likely have to do something like this, which basically means white doesn't have any territory out here. So black and white both black has reduced white and white has fixed its shape. This is simple enough for Simo. White doesn't need to defend. White will have to defend on the outside, not on the inside. And white has, as you can see, defended on the outside. So black will likely play this and white will play this. You know, expect something like this to happen. This black's not strong enough. But it is brave, but it is interesting to see what will happen if this happens. And it looks like black has pushed on this side. This is not a good place for white to be. Let's see what the score estimator says. Oh, interesting. It's much more even than I would have expected it to be. And as it stands, as you can see, the white bottom has become big because of the G2 stone. Mm. It's still very, very close. Black must have realized why, that in this sequence, white actually has more potential than black does. Because there isn't that much more places where black can get new territory. While if white gets a couple of stones out here, then this might be a game-changing piece of territory for white. So black's trying to reduce that by playing the sequence of moves. Maybe jumping out with this strength out here. If black gets this, then the line or the wall in between the territories is redrawn out here as compared to here. That will be a big difference for black. I mean, black has a couple of options out there. Okay, yeah. Black has a couple of options out there. Black can play something like this, threatening to go out. But this is not a great shape for black because black will have to do something like this, which is doable. Alternatively, black might just jump out, but then black is giving white the chance to build a more solid wall out here. Now it depends on how confident black is on these stones being able to go in, or on these stones being able to go out. With this move itself, black is saying that black wants to play something like this. But yeah, we can see black playing this instead. This might be a more aggressive way to reduce. I I'm just curious to see how the game goes from here. So black's making a couple of endgame moves out here because black has that opportunity. Most of these would be forcing, and from a timing point of view, this is the right time to play them. This game is incredibly close, and now we can see that the territory is being formalized with all of these moves. So it's going to stay just as close. This might just go down to Yosei. It looks like White has gotten back a part of the lead that it had. It's possible that that would actually be because of these couple of moves, which Black was not able to follow through on well enough, potentially. Maybe something like this would have been doable, but again, this is probably not great for Black. It's probably what Black decided, which is why Black did this move instead. But then this sequence of moves is probably just wasted. With this one stone out here at L11, White has ended up solidifying all this territory, which kind of gets rid of all the potential that was there potentially because of this. So that's kind of why the games become closer. I feel that a couple of moves out here might have been uh, inefficient for Black. The rest of the moves are fine. I think this is a good forcing move. This is a good forcing move. This is fine in the context. But this sequence is Gote. Maybe Black should not necessarily capture these two stones. But that's probably could potentially be the biggest move on the board. Maybe I'm expecting Black does not believe any of this will actually become territory. But maybe something like this could be a little more interesting. But that might not be worth the 4 points that Black's solidly getting out here. Sorry. Which my white defended, black defended, white tried to increase its mono. And here white is threatening to take all of these stones, which would be quite bad for black. This is where the original line was. That means that these two moves are fully wasted, number one. And number two, that means that if this becomes white's territory, that's going to be an advantage for white. And as you can see, AI is also saying that white's actually ahead after the sequence of moves. I think there's some potential out here. Not a whole lot, but it's definitely a way to um, reduce. But it's not an easy place for black to be with this. Technically, this group might not be fully settled, so maybe this cut has some potential. Actually, that is to some extent what black is evaluating as well, as we can see. There are similar reductions or cuts. In the meantime, this game has finished. White seems to have won by resignation, which is not too surprising after the sequence of moves that happened earlier with this good line. Black did try to kill off the top group of the white, but white was comfortably able to escape. And yeah, honestly, after this group comes out, there's not that much black can do. So maybe if there's some potential out here, maybe black could have tried to keep a little more territory here. But honestly, after this sequence of moves, it was very unlikely that black would win this game. So here we can see that black chose to, back to the main game, black chose to play m9, which is threatening to reduce this territory, which is most likely the important part of the territory, and threatening the cuts that we saw earlier. So white has defended against the cuts, allowing black to maybe push through out here, but it might not be enough of a reduction. I guess we'll find out. This move is a good reduction move. And it's very well timed because now if white defends out here, the black can cut here, and if white defends out here, then black can cut here, go here. So I think this is probably a move that black had thought of a while back, and black finally got a chance to play. So this is the sequence that we're following. This the reason why it does this throw in is basically to get a forcing move out here and out here, at which point white can either try to go here or try to defend or whatever. I think white's gone here. I'm expecting white to just take center out here and then maybe defend in some way like this. Black may not even respond to this if black feels confident enough that black can kill white uh, or reduce it well enough. But this is an uncomfortable position for black to be in. So I'm expecting a response. Now, as you can see, this is exactly the cut that black is reading out. So black has chosen to make it. Interesting, interesting. So we've seen a very, very quick sequence of moves out here. Where, like we discussed earlier, black did ignore this, and white had to defend against the cut, and black took this. So here, white has played on the outside. This is likely to continue to have the strength so that white can attack this group. This is not settled at the moment. White has taken a move out here, which might not be the best timing because black does not need to respond to this. So black could probably just go back and fix its shape. I think a move like this might have been better at this point of time, or I'm not sure. I don't think this is a settled shape, honestly. I think that there's enough potential out here that there could be a problem. Maybe something like this. I'm not fully sure about what the best sequence would be, but here we can see the white played here, and that does leave a lot of weaknesses in the shape out here. That white will have to defend. So white does defend like this. Most likely we can see something not problematic out here, but what we see is black playing out here. And that is in line with what black initially wanted to do, which is reduce, the wall of territory that was coming here. So we see this, we see this, we see this, and we see a cutout here. Okay, at this stage, black is quite happy with the reduction that has happened. The only thing I'm worried about is the bottom right corner right now. Mm, yeah, and now we can see an attack out here. White has given away these two stones, potentially, or maybe even something bigger like this. Yeah. But it's nothing too much to worry about. It's definitely not as big as the corner. So white has played on the corner, and yeah, this might not be a great place to play because yeah, this might just be a dead shape. So black is trying to make it a ko, and now it's going to be interesting to see. Oh, it's not a ko. Sorry, I was wrong about that. Oh, it is a ko, right? But it might be a two-step ko. Let's assume that black defends, white takes, then black plays something, and white ignores it. White will connect here. Okay, no, it's a one-step ko. So now black needs to evaluate which is bigger. Where are black's ko threats? I think black might have a couple of ko threats in this part of the board, and obviously the local ko threats. But this might not work because this is an equivalent code thread that maybe we'll see something like this. It's a reduction. It's a very solid reduction. But black is alive. But okay, so white has not made the side of the board. Okay, okay. Now this is a tough spot for black. These are big threats. Yeah, that's what I would expect white to do. Oh, this is very beautifully done. Black needs to respond to this. At which point, white's actually playing for the entire group, and we can actually assume that these are already dead. So it's that's not what I would have expected white to do. But that's fine. So white has gotten a lot more points than white would have otherwise. The corner is incredibly small now. And I think at this stage, white should be ahead. Yes, white is ahead, and I don't see anywhere that black can get enough of a reduction to get those few moves. Maybe there's some potential out here. And we can see that that's exactly where black has played. But I'm expecting nothing major to come out of it. And now black has maybe some potential points to be made out here. Okay, so black has taken this point instead. I don't know about this because yeah, this weakness was there, which black has fixed. Okay. So this is okay. So since white had center, white was able to do this, which is a good reduction itself. I think black needs to play this. But yeah, like we can see with the score estimator, it does look like white is winning. There is a 6.5 Komi, and we are following the Korean rules. Korean rules are not very relevant from the point of view of this game because the way the game is set up right now, there aren't any situation that would lead to a different score as per Japanese rules or Korean rules or Chinese rules. But uh, the 6.5 Komi is also not really affecting white because white's ahead, not black. And white's ahead by more than just the Komi. Sorry, we have Nick following along. So black played here, white played here, threatening the card, black had to connect. It threatened, white played a couple of points out here in a good enough sequence. White has ignored this, which shouldn't really be a problem. White has taken a big point instead. White has taken another big point out here. This is because if black had taken this move, white would have had to connect. Otherwise, it's in self-Atari. White is taking this big move. Black has pushed out here. There's another push out here that black can get, and there's another push out here. But nothing that's really going to lead to anything changing the life or death status of this group. So black is playing all the outside moves first. And white is just to be on the safe side, white has defended. I think that makes sense given the situation. Now white can comfortably play here. And then a couple of other reductions that can happen. Maybe something like this. But yeah, I'll just play here instead because this has only one liberty here eventually. Black can't comfortably push through without having to worry about its potential. And white can always push through out here and maybe threaten this entire thing. I think this would likely have been bigger than this, but I don't know whether how much of a difference that would actually make. Okay, here white has lost quite a few movements. Now if black plays this, white gets this move. Black gets so white has to play this move. And this is much smaller than it would be otherwise. That's good Yosei by black, a slightly suboptimal Yosei by white. Whether that's enough to swing the game or not, I don't think, because white was ahead by 11, white's now ahead by like 5. Maybe black will push throughout here. I think that's the next big move on the board. And maybe a couple of Yosei moves in this corner out here. This is also a big move, but there's no rush in playing this, especially because this is not a problem. Black should play here. That's an extra point out here. There's no danger if it is a cut, but black gets one extra point by playing here. This is time that black has to connect. This is probably the next important sequence. But this doesn't necessarily work out great for white. So maybe white's going to play this later. Yeah, white does play this, which would have been a big endgame sequence. There are no points to be highlighted. No one needs to play here anymore. This is a doable move that reduces 1 point by black. This is a move where white needs to play to defend this 1 point. Right, so white played this move, and guessing black will play this. White will connect. Maybe this move? No, I'm not sure. I think black will just connect this go. I don't expect white to play the go. Yeah, I expected white to connect. The go would have been playable, but white's still ahead. Although the score estimator does do its scoring through Chinese counting, so there might be like 1 point here or there. As it stands, there might be one move playable out here, one move out here. I think that's the game. So let's invite both the players here. Uh, Hi Pranjal, great to
Hi.
have you in this room. This game was a lot of fun to watch. Let's give Gokul a couple of minutes. I think he'll be joining as well.
That got pretty quick towards the end.
Hi Gokul,
Hey, what's up?
how did you feel about this game? This game was very close for the majority of
Yeah.
It was
the
very well
game.
played. I mean, Pranjal plays really well, as I said. Really strong. Good stuff.
And it's very close game.
Hmm.
There are a couple of points where AI is saying that there was a much bigger move. Yeah, exactly. This
Yeah,
one.
yeah,
It was very important for Black to defend. This was a good reduction, but I think
yeah,
at
excuse
any
me.
point of time it was very important for Black to play.
Hmm.
Yeah, and R1 I realized after playing it was unnecessary.
Why was R1 unnecessary? R1. Oh yeah. So AI is saying actually you should just play Q1,
Yeah,
but it's no, it's not making it a go. Hmm.
Hmm.
Do you guys want to go through the game?
Yeah, sure.
yeah,
I think we've been having like a live commentary of the game, Soumya and I. It'll be fun to get your inputs on the entire thing as well.
Okay.
You want me to add the Pandanet 5 times as well?
Yeah, I mean, if they're around, why
Yeah,
not? Of
that
course,
would
we'll
be
be happy to get a review from us for them.
Let me share this link with them then,
Yeah.
and maybe
Yes.
we can just get their inputs on this game. We had planned a Fuseki lecture for the SDKs. But I
Mm-hmm.
think we can just tell them that we can do that next time.
Hmm.
Samay, have you pushed in the other group? Oh, wonderful. Okay.
Yeah.
In the meantime, we can start. We can always pick it up at a later time. So this was fine. This was perfectly fine. This, I think you guys took a good amount of time on these moves.
I don't think so.
I think this is okay. I don't see this as. I would have expected the Joseki to actually have like a jump out or something like that. Gokul, is this how the Joseki normally goes? It looks like it's good for white. Maybe.
I think it's okay, except I've later on in the game, the two stones at R4 and S4, there was a way to capture them or at least use that to reduce white's territory in that area and even
Correct,
attack that
correct.
whole group. So I would prefer black here at
Okay,
this moment.
sure.
Because white has to play one more move to stabilize that group. So
Yes.
not yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Sure. Okay. So this was the in-game sequence. This was fine. This was good, in fact. I mean, white's building some strength out here. And then black
Yeah,
takes a big point, white takes a big point. And black starts the attack on this group.
Yeah.
White stabilized. I think this was interesting. This was preferable to this, I feel, maybe in this situation because of the weakness of this group. But then that gives maybe that actually allows black to play something like this. Get a better wall.
I don't prefer this because this way
You've
whole
gotten rid
point
of all the
black's
weakness.
attack went away because black was supposed to attack. Now white's alive. And black still has a cutting point at Q11. So I wouldn't play this way.
Okay, okay. So that's why black basically stabilized. And then white took a big point out here. Okay. So this was a reduction. I mean, I saw in your video you were kind of trying to evaluate this move or this move at this point of time directly. Why would you go for the shoulder hit and then the reduction like this? Is it just to gather strength so that you can do something like this?
That sequence, I'm not sure. I don't think that would be good for black if black does a one space jump there. But the thinking behind the probe at D13 is just to see which direction white wants to respond. Because white essentially has two options there at D14 and C13.
Right.
Right. So if white does play at C13 the way it did in the game, essentially white is prioritizing the left hand side. So then the left hand side is quite big, so it is a good choice. Yeah, so then I would have to do something on the top side, because if I don't, then now white's got quite a bit of the territory on the left hand side just with the move at C13. And if white plays another move on the top side, say something like F17, that would be massive. So it is quite urgent for me now that white has interest, sort of shown interest in this direction. Yeah, exactly. And in order for black to secure the left hand side, black would still have to play a turn move at C12. And the left hand side is still not fully secure. And whereas white's corner is actually quite good. So yeah, I would prefer white in this kind of a local situation. So
that's why you didn't continue.
Black to play in there right away.
Okay.
Okay, but then why not directly E18? Like, how does this sort of fighting? How does it help if you make the D13 C13 exchange?
What I think Gokul's saying is that if you would have gone for this.
Later in the game, it helped as a ladder breaker. If I didn't have that and I played it now, you will later in the sequence you might respond differently. So these kinds of moves, this is what I was saying yesterday. It's like a probe move. Black loses nothing, and white doesn't necessarily gain any more than what it deserved to gain. Whereas black lost nothing in the process, so black can continue with the game. If this was a bad exchange for black, then it is a bad idea. But this exchange is basically a free move for black, so black can play it. It will help later on. You will see in the game as it does help actually later, coincidentally. It's just like pure magic basically.
Okay.
So we see this is fine.
Yeah,
this
here
is good.
normally black is supposed to clamp at b18 before proceeding.
Okay.
But one of the disadvantages of the probe move at d13 and the response that white gave is that this clamp is not really good for black, because white will happily play at c19. Normally it's not supposed to. Normally white is not supposed to connect at c17.
How does the
And black-
probe move make a difference?
And black. Sorry.
How does the probe move make a difference?
Yeah, now clamp white shouldn't go out. Sorry, white should connect at. White shouldn't play that. No,
Why?
black wouldn't cut. The cut is obviously wrong. Black
Okay.
cannot cut right now. But so you clamp. White needs to connect.
No, but why would white need to connect?
Because black wouldn't play like this. This is a bad way of playing. What black might
So what-
do later in the game is a move like, say something like b14.
Okay.
B14. B14.
B14. Okay.
B for Bombay. Yeah, these kinds of things can happen, and it's very hard for white to play very well there, given that it has a cutting point left at c17. So this is the main issue with that going down. So normally white will just connect at c17, right? But remember, I told you that all of this is only because of the attach at something like b14, right?
Mm-hmm.
The b14 attach is what makes it very annoying for white to play at c19 in the first place.
But with this sequence, that's not there anymore.
But with that sequence, that black's attach at b14 would be stupid. So it would be completely wrong. So basically, black has lost the privilege of playing the clamp at b18. So that's exactly why I couldn't play that. So that is, I realized that later, that is supposed the loss of playing that exchange. But it's not a huge loss, because I can still play c19. It's just not as good as b18.
Right. Okay.
I think the game is still fine.
Yeah, this is fine. This is fine. This was here. This was good, I think, because white's kind of attacking.
Yeah.
I think black played this sequence, right? No.
White connect.
White play? Yeah.
White
correct.
connect.
Okay. At this point, rather than coming out, would it have made more sense for black to actually just attack the white group out here, threaten the cut or something?
I don't know. What does AI say? I mean, obviously, I played the best game I could, so I have no idea.
AI is saying Tenuki.
Yeah, AI is saying come out from that seat.
I thought P10 was like quite big. Next move I played there, that's why.
I did evaluate that area earlier in the game. Just timing I missed.
Okay. So black came out and then white played here. So here black ignored it and black played here, which I think is okay. I think that's an evaluation. I think what I was thinking of was something like this at this point of time. Or maybe even this.
Those are the options.
Maybe just P11.
P11 is a little slow because what's happening is you're comfortably getting this.
I mean, black
This
will
is
cut.
not a great exchange for
Won't
black.
be that.
Sorry?
Black will cut it. Yeah. Something.
I wouldn't like this black, to be honest,
Okay.
because white's getting strong and black's not necessarily making territory there, especially with the moves like K, something like that. Then there is not very much that black can get. So that area itself becomes unimportant.
Yeah, if black wants to do that, I think it makes sense for black to start by doing this.
That is definitely a bigger move. Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't play M17 either, because M17 means white can go into the corner later.
Okay.
And the corner is big. The corner is quite big. Yeah. So moves like that are more important.
Sure. Okay.
For sure.
Anyway, black did this. Black's just jumping out, reducing this influence. Which also makes sense because assuming black gets and white both get these moves out here, and that would be quite big for for white. So then white follows up out here, which is threatening something out here, and then black takes this move. Guys, just give me 1 minute.
Yeah.
Next move was a mouse slip. I mean, Q13 doesn't make any sense. I was trying R13.
Q.
Yeah, in the game I played Q13.
I think I would have played R13.
Exactly, I was trying to play R13, my mouse slipped.
Oh, your mouse slipped. You could have asked for an undo. I would have given you.
Yeah, I thought it was fine since it's like for a tournament.
No, that's made for a different game altogether.
Gokul, I have a phone call that I'm on right now. It might take a little bit of time. Can you share your screen and continue the session or the review?
Yeah. Okay. Give me that review link. I suppose I can't. Okay, let's.
No, this is not a review link. I'm just playing on the game itself. So there's not that much to do. I'm on move 45.
Okay. Something like. Yeah. So according to AI, I lost some points here. I should just respond. I suppose according to AI, this is good. White has to come and connect and then come and play a move. Okay, again it says here. Okay, this seems more reasonable. I like it.
Okay.
That's probably.
Gokul, Kosan has joined. Kosan's also roughly in SDK, right, Kosan?
Oh yeah.
So what we're doing is we're discussing the tournament game that we played. This is the tournament that we had for selection for the Korean Prime Minister Cup, selecting the India representative. So we're just reviewing that game right now. Please feel free to give your comments at any point of time.
Yeah.
So at this point in the game, okay, I jumped, so lost a little. White takes some advantage. I got to respond, but yeah, locally I suppose I didn't, and white should have really punished. But white made it. You can see there you lost like 4 points.
Yeah.
Even now, I would honor. It is the correct timing, I think. I feel.
Okay.
But okay, it's not the end of the world. So here, sorry, let's go back. Okay, both of them have a pro and con. But this was very interesting. I should have pushed. Obviously. That's what I was wondering, what mistake I made. There was definitely a mistake I made here. This one works if black has a descent here. So if this happens, then you do here, then this works. That would have been very bad for white. But yeah, I think I played in a little bit of a hurry here. Just out of this is nice, brilliant. Actually, no, I didn't play in a hurry. I did spend some time on this move, but I wasn't comfortable with this one. I was worried that white might live easily, and yeah, this is the sequence. 4, 5, and then white lives on the side. It's 6, 7, 8, and then black has to do something on this side. So it's not very easy. Okay. I was just thinking you would peep once, let black connect, and then nudi, because then I can't cut you because of something.
I was actually worried you didn't need to connect.
Sorry, what?
Connect.
Yeah, you mean if I don't connect? If I don't connect, what other option? Like what else do I do?
Yeah, suppose cut.
And this is really good for white.
G2.
Yeah.
And now it's like a capturing race.
Yeah, but I'm not super sure the black can win it. White has too many liberties.
Okay, okay, I was misreading this actually.
Yeah, so let us say white just connects here, okay? Actually, sorry, white say plays this one. So there
I
are only
mean,
three liberties to black.
black will push a few times first.
Suppose yeah, black has to. But okay,
Yeah, now, okay, even
now
then, yeah,
you do something like this one, but it's still
comfortable.
white. So
Okay,
let's just say white connects to prove a point. Now white has what, 5 liberties and black has 5 liberties, but white's in the corner.
white has
So
6 liberties, so it's fine.
yeah, exactly. Plus white can play this move because black
Ah,
has to Atari here and then white can Atari here.
okay, right.
Actually, black's quite dead there if black plays this way. So black has to pretty much connect and then white goes here. That is the mistake of this move at c5. I realized it after playing it. I was quite sad.
Yeah.
But you cut, which gave me somewhat of a choice. And that's really quite a loss. I suppose I was wondering, should I do this or I should have done this immediately. The timing, I missed the timing here. 2, 3, and then this would have to go out. Yeah. Yeah, I suppose would have been better points wise. Fair enough. Yeah. And now also it says you have to do it. Now it says you have absolutely have to do it. I missed it. Okay. Should have just taken was another mistake. Yeah. Very high instead of low. Yeah, I suppose low would mean I can take the bottom territory. High means I can attack, but I suppose I didn't attack properly. And then I should Hane immediately. Hane and fight like that. Yeah. Wait, what? Really? It's saying play here. But how does that work? So Atari, connect. Atari, connect. And take. Okay, it's just saying, okay, you can get this Atari. But yeah, I thought this was not good for black. That's why I didn't play it. AI prefers it. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I have to play that. It's so tempting to play the Hane, but it would have been a disaster. It would have been, I think, instantly game over.
Hi, Kosan has written something in the chat box.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Hi, Kosan. Is someone willing to review again?
Hello. Gunji-san participate today's session, so they have some question about this game or other question. Please ask him.
Okay. Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. So naturally, at this point, black has to know. Be no choice. This is one area where I think I messed up a little. So let's see. There is just so much Aji here. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It says go down 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay. So it's saying that white is dead in the corner. Oh, I didn't realize that I should play this one. Play this. Okay, it's not the end of the world, I suppose. Response from there was correct. It just wants me to do this. Maybe I should have done it. That way there was no territory on the outside and you get a little life on the inside. So like this one, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And black is alive in Sente, and then it says 9. Aha. That's where I messed up. So I went there and lost a huge thing. Says should have Atari first. 2, 3, 4, 5. Aha. Still black would have been ahead. Interesting. But Atari is tempting indeed. But connect is a bit passive. Nice. Very nice. Atari connect, Hane. Okay. Then it wants me to do this. I was just worried about this move. Okay, it says connect. And if you connect, it says fight. Aha, that's what I lost the timing to play this Hane. I really wanted to play this Hane. This is the timing. This, I have to play it at this point now. I think this is where I lost the initiative. The area. Unfortunate. Yeah, white fixed it. There. Correct. And it says take it. The thing is, I was thinking that if I take it, then, of course, this fight is valid. And then even this option it has offered. This one, 3, this. And I thought the center was bigger. That's why I played that hatch. And that is a losing move. I think so. Basically, okay, I really do need to save this. And then I think black has enough. But this is a bit of overplay, I think. Even now, this was such a bad move. It's such a bad exchange. I shouldn't have played this. Because it means white can push later in Atari.
Yeah.
So like that. And of course, I'll have to double Atari here, but still. Yeah, again, losing points there. Yeah. Basically, then it's hard to fix the lead, I suppose. Here too, just maybe it's good. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Have to throw, take, and descend. but that's just dead. The corner, the whole corner is dead. Wow, I didn't even realize the corner is actually dead. Really?
If you respond, it's alive.
Wait, what? So after this one, 3. And see the corner. I really, that's another big mistake, is I didn't realize the corner is dead.
Yeah, even I missed it for like a huge while.
Yeah, so here, play this. Slightly closer again. The problem is, I thought there was something with the liberties here. Problem is, there is this cutting point as well at 0.4. That's the annoying part. Yeah, okay, so now really do have to come. Okay, I think well deserved. This was entirely dead, I think. It's completely dead.
Yeah.
In the game, the result was slightly better than necessary. 4, 5. Yeah, and there are a lot of 4 threads all over the place. So, all right. Yeah, I think I would say I pretty much lost it here in this fight. Just going back to these moves. Yeah, so at this point, just take. This happens, fight. Yeah. Good enough. Yeah, should have kept it simple. Okay, cool. I don't know if you, if anyone has any comments or thoughts about the game. But overall, quite well played, Pranjal. I mean, you play really well. I don't feel like you play like a 3Q at all.
See, the thing is that when there's less time, I just need front When I'm low on time, I make a lot of mistakes.
Yeah. Yeah, but I wouldn't say so. The way I felt this game's flow went, you pretty much played like a Dan level player. It really didn't feel like a Q level game to me. It was quite good, really. It was quite well. Good stuff. Well deserved victory. Totally. Really, really well played.
Thanks a lot. He also played quite well. Like, it was so close in the end, only like 4.5 points.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Does anyone have any comments?
Not really. This was an amazing game.
Cool. All right then. Thanks.
Thanks for the game.
Shall